Hey y'all, welcome to Kisha's Crumbs. Today we are uploading our very first cooking video, and I am going to dedicate this video to a special lady by the name of Lawanda. You know exactly who you are, my Facebook friend, my homegirl from Monroe, Louisiana. She has been asking me probably for over a year now, of course prior to me creating this YouTube channel, to cook some cabbage or share my recipe. Now I will tell you this won't be my exact recipe. I will also admit to you that I don't even have a recipe, because you all know that I'm a Southern cook by heart, and I just add a little of this and add a little of that. So hopefully not only will this YouTube channel enable me to share a lot of my passion for cooking and things like that, but hopefully will also help me to develop recipes where I cook things the same way every time. I doubt that's going to happen, but at least I'll be able to do something similar for your benefit. I'll be able to give you amounts of ingredients to use versus a pinch of this and a dash of that. I'll be able to give you something that you can walk away from, but we won't start out like that. I am here to tell you about cooking principles. You know what the Bible says. It's all about principalities. Okay, that's what you have to be mindful for. So principalities, the principles of cooking, is the way I consider it, the main components of cooking. And the reason why I feel like this is going to benefit you even more than giving you a recipe, because y'all, if recipes were worth their weight in gold, why would there be a million of them online? You can go anywhere and get a recipe. You can test different recipes until you find one you like yourself. So I wouldn't be doing you that much of a favor by simply giving you a recipe. I would like to share cooking principles with you. So feel free to jot down what you see me add in a pot. Today we're going to have some fried cabbage, or pan-fried cabbage. Some people refer to it as their steamed cabbage. I also have a different cooking application where I prepare cabbage steaks in the oven. But today we're just going to do pan-fried, or some people refer to it as stewed cabbage, okay? Because that's the more popular preparation. But what I mean by cooking principles, the main components of cooking, things like heat, your temperature that you cook on. As you all know, Mariah loves to bake, Shania loves to cook. Well, Shania, for example, loves to cook on high heat. She just loves to turn that fire right on up, like most teenagers and young adults do. I get on to her about it. Her grandmother gets on to her about it. You have to cook things at a certain temperature. Now, some things need to cook at high heat, but that's the thing. That's the cooking principality, is knowing when you should have that heat turned all the way up, when you should have it in a simmer, and when you should have it somewhere in between. Cooking principle number one. Cooking principle number two is, and the only reason why it's second to heat is because if your fire's too high, you're gonna end up burning it and ruining the entire meal. But you can also ruin your entire meal with seasoning, right? Either over seasoning or lack thereof. So cooking principle for me, one-on-one, is layering your seasoning. I mean, that's partially why I have an issue with giving out predefined measurements in terms of seasonings, is because layering and seasoning is all about putting in a little seasoning and tasting it. Putting in a little seasoning and tasting it. You know why? Because vegetables taste different during certain times of the year. You all have heard that vegetables and fruit are prime, and their flavors are really prominent during certain times when they're in season. So you may not need as much additive in terms of a seasoning. You know, if you've used chicken broth, for example, here today, we're going to talk about chicken broth. If you've used chicken broth in the place of water, yet another reason why you may not need as much seasoning as you would normally use. So it's just imperative, because we do so many different things with cooking and being in the kitchen and being in our groove. To me, it's just imperative that you taste throughout the process. And tasting throughout the process means that you're going to adjust accordingly. That's where you come in with layering your seasonings. You don't take, oh, I'm going to take a third a cup of seasoning salt and pour it in the pan. No, you're not. No, you're not. You may have used fresh meat, or you may have used cured meat. Cured meat already has salt in it, right? If it's been smoked, it's been cured, versus a fresh turkey leg or fresh turkey wing versus a cured turkey wing. So you won't need all that seasoning. So that's what I mean by cooking principles. You have to control your heat. You have to layer in those seasonings, tasting as you go. And that's why most people that you see will tell you to season to your liking, season to your taste. So you have those two things to consider. Then you have how to manipulate certain ingredients. We're using certain herbs or certain spices, putting a little heat on those herbs and spices to make them kind of open up, versus just pouring them in the pan after everything started cooking. You're not getting the most out of your spices when you do that. So, you know, those type of things are what I mean by cooking principalities. That's what I'm going to share with you. And I hope that over time you will see that, hey, I learned more by getting those cooking principles that I would have by just sharing a simple recipe. All right, so let's turn to this cabbage. But first, if you haven't already invited yourself to dinner, to Kisha's Crumb, make sure that you click that like button. Please click subscribe, and come on in and catch a crumb or two. All right, y'all, so let's have a look at these ingredients. Now, I'm really not sure what type of sausage I'm going to use, so just ignore that for now. But one thing I want to mention is that you can use any type of sausage, right? You can use any type of meat. You may want to use turkey. You may want to use ham. But for my skillet fried cabbage, I normally use a smoked sausage, as you see here. So here we have smoked sausage. Here we have Italian sausage on the end. I will more than likely use these 3 links of smoked sausage. So there's your meat element. I don't like a lot of meat in my cabbage, so I normally just go with smoked sausage. I like to really enjoy the cabbage. Okay, here we have our seasoning. Okay, of course you have, which will always be the star of the show, the UWKG, my custom seasoning blend. If you're interested in purchasing any, just please go to my website. It is there for you to purchase. We have some dried onion, even though we'll be using fresh onion today. We have dried onion because I just love the taste of dried onion. And then we have some Nature's Seasoning by Morton, in case you all hadn't heard of that before. I like to use this because it just has just a bit of salt, Morton, who we trust and love, but it has like parsley, it has parsley, garlic, a little garlic powder, and there's also celery seed in this. So I love Nature's Seasoning by Morton. Those are the 3 seasonings we have here. We have a few fresh green onion. We have half of a white onion. We have a scallion. A scallion is just like a white onion, but it's just a little milder in flavor, and it is sweet. Doesn't offer as much texture as a white onion as well. And then we have good old green bell pepper. Now, I will tell you, I've seen people use colored peppers in their cabbage. I learned this one thing from my mom. She always uses green bell pepper. Green bell pepper is more prominent in flavor. This is where you actually get bell pepper taste from. Using colored peppers is more, to me, it's more decoration than anything. It's just more for an aesthetic. When you have something like my pastelaya, I always use tricolored peppers. But I'm going to make sure if I really want to taste bell pepper in something like a gumbo or any type of roux or, you know, anything, I'm going to make sure I have this green bell pepper. And then I might add in some tricolored peppers just for the sake of color. But in my cabbage, we only use the green bell pepper. As you can see here, oftentimes I always keep some fresh garlic on standby, which all you have to do is press that. But just for the sake of time, I will tell you this is great garlic paste. You know, it's a pretty penny, but it is worth its weight in gold. This is much better than minced garlic. I don't purchase minced garlic anymore because the liquid in that jarred minced garlic just, to me, gives off an aftertaste. So this is pure, fresh garlic that has been pressed and put into a tube. So I like to use this. Of course, we have to heat our pan with some olive oil to get our seasoning and vegetables going. And we have the chicken broth here. Now, last but not least, we have a big, beautiful organic head of cabbage. Huge head of cabbage. And those are our ingredient seasonings and all. Okay, we're going to use this heavy duty using. So give me a moment to prepare these veggies and we'll be right back. All right, y'all, we have made it back. And as you can see here, let me scoot y'all back a little bit. As you can see here, our ingredients are prepared. I've turned the pan on. It is getting hot. I'm going to turn it just a little bit more. But this is our pan. It's getting hot. But you see we have diced our peppers. We have our green onions chopped up small. We have our onions chopped up small. Quite honestly, I normally do my peppers and onions a little bigger. It just depends on what mood I'm in, y'all. It's just like when I'm dressing. Hey, I might want a little crunch. I might want a little bite. I might not. So if you want more bites or more crunch to your vegetables, you can leave them a little bigger. But of course, if you want them to cook softer and basically be the same texture as your cabbage, then you can cut them finer. And so come on over. As you can see, I have the scallion here. And then here are beautiful, beautiful smoked sausage. I got a little smoked sausage, okay? Still got my seasoning here, chicken broth. And so this is the olive oil. I always put olive oil in my pan, bring you over. And like I said, it's heating up. I would say that's probably about a tablespoon and a half. I don't use much, you all, because what you're doing, you put enough oil in there to start tenderizing your vegetables, but also opening up your seasonings. So as I talked about earlier, we're going to put just a few of our seasonings in now, just to open up their flavor. And plus, this is going to, I'm sorry for crossing over you, but plus this is also going to help add seasoning to our sauteed vegetables. So y'all see that? Okay. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add my onion. So just a little bit. For temperature, we can go a little high because we're starting to saute. These are my beautiful pots that my mom bought me. I don't like to scratch them up, so even though I have metal utensils, I mainly use wood, you all. I'm just putting a little bit of everything in there. Peppers, onions, scallions, as y'all can see, all in there together. So then what I'm doing, okay, what I'm doing is I am flavoring this oil. The oil is not only used to saute the pot, saute the vegetables, but it is also used to flavor the pot. So if you think about it, the oil that I started at the base of this dish, once I add liquid, everything that's in that oil is going to be in that liquid, and everything that's in the pot will be part of the liquid. So that's how you end up getting your flavor. This is the base of your flavor. When you look at this, you season it up, you fry it, saute it to release those natural sugars, all of those great flavors. This is what's going to season your cabbage, okay? The meat is just going to be a bonus. But that's why a lot of people, you can cook your cabbage with just these beautiful sauteed vegetables alone and have a heck of a meal, okay? So push this crumb now, push this crumb while it's falling. Now that my vegetables have started to halfway saute, I don't want them to get all the way soft yet because these vegetables, I want them to maintain their integrity in the pot of cabbage. So I'm just heating them up enough to first flavor the oil with the seasoning of these vegetables, and then to also tenderize the vegetables just a bit. If I saute them too much, then by the time I get ready to add the cabbage, my vegetables will turn to mush. You never want that. Here's the garlic. If y'all don't know, you always add your garlic last. See how beautiful that paste is? You always add the garlic last because garlic can easily burn. So you always add it last. Okay, so now that that's done, what I want to do is I'm going to come in and add my meat. Like I said, whether you had smoked turkey, You can have smoked turkey, you can have this sausage. Some people still like to use fat meat or salt meat. It's about to be the holidays, you know how we do it. The ham is left over from the Thanksgiving and Christmas ham. We use that or the fat and cream from it because it's just to flavor the pot. You have to decide whether you want meat in your cabbage or not. If you want meat in your cabbage, then make sure you have meat in addition to the fat, because the fat is just for flavor. You have to steadily work this. See how I'm steadily working this pot? Principality. Why? Because my heat was up high. But now that I'm towards the end of sauteing, see how beautiful? I can turn this down. Okay, I'm going to turn it down. Now I'm going to make the end of my sauteing. So now, this pot is not only being flavored with these beautiful vegetables, it's also being flavored with that smoked sausage. I'm cooking that smoked sausage just long enough to see it curl and see it turn just a little bit brown. Let me show you this one. See it turn just a little brown. And that's how I know that the flavors, the juices, the seasoning from this smoked sausage is being rendered into this pot. How can my cabbage not be good? I got seasoning, I have onion, I have bell pepper, I have green onion, I have scallion, and I have garlic. Okay, I turn my seasoning down to medium heat now because everything is sauteed. Just like I don't want to cook the vegetables all the way, I don't want to cook the sausage all the way because these things have to continue to cook while the cabbage is in there. Okay, so now we're going to back up just a bit and I'm going to add in this cabbage. And this is how I sliced them. Y'all saw that earlier. You just lay them in there. And what you start out doing, I will show you all. Just going to put like half of it. Okay, first thing, after you put your cabbage in there, because all your seasoning is at the bottom. Now this is my pot of seasoning I've been pinching out of. Now I'm going to shake some directly over that cabbage. Because that cabbage has absolutely no flavor, right? So I'm going to shake some over the cabbage so as I stir. I am stirring in a way to incorporate the meat and the vegetables into this cabbage. The cabbage is, I don't know what percent of water, y'all, but it is mainly water. If you've ever seen how cabbage and most greens shrink up, that's because it's mostly water. So when you put heat to it, it shrivels. So see, I've seasoned the cabbage. But I'm just stirring bit by bit. I have to be careful not to knock all the cabbage out of my pot. Probably looks like I need a much bigger pot, but you'll see that I don't by the time we can stir this up. And I'm just stirring it around a bit to get that oil. I'm picking up that oil, that beautiful olive oil. It's beautifully seasoned. We know it is because we season it. We season it with the vegetables, and we season it with our herbs and our seasoning. So I'm just kind of turning this cabbage to make sure that that flavored oil is touching all of this cabbage. Right? See, I could just pour the chicken broth and the water over it and put the top on it and let it go. But I want to make sure that my seasonings are well mixed in before I do this.
Y'all are really being intentional about showing you how you basically have to stir fry this cabbage. So you'll see a lot of stirring throughout because I want you to see how the cabbage changes during the stir fry process. That's basically what you're doing, is stir frying the cabbage. But you will see the look and the color of the change, and you have to be able to monitor that in order to know when you're ready to put the top on it and just let it simmer. Okay?
Put it on there because I know this cabbage is going to steadily shrink. Put it in there. It just needs the heat. Once again, come back in with my seasoning. Some more of my seasoning go on top. And I'm layering. Now, I still don't know whether this is enough seasoning for my pot. But after I get this cabbage tender and I've added my liquid and things like that, I can taste the broth that's in the pot. And however the broth tastes, that's how your cabbage is going to taste. If that broth is too salty, your cabbage is going to be too salty. If that broth is bland, your cabbage is going to be bland. Okay? Again, I know my pot looks so crowded, and I could have used a bigger pot just to make less of a mess, but hey, this is what I like to do. Now, let me show you one last thing before we put a top on this. As you can see, I left some of my vegetables because I know that the best vegetables I put in the pot are going to become super tender. I'll taste them, but I won't be able to feel the texture of them. I won't be able to experience the texture of those different little bites of veggies. So what I do is I leave half of my vegetables out. So that when this cabbage is halfway cooked, I can go and add those vegetables in towards the end. Right? I have some here to flavor the pot, and then I'll add those. And these will give me my bite. They'll maintain even more of their texture because I will put them in at the end. Steadily stirring. Bring it back over here so you can see how this cabbage is caramelizing. Can you see that? I'm steadily stirring. I'm pulling the bottom, the contents of the bottom of the pot, and putting it towards the top. Because I don't want the bottom to burn. I don't want it to scorch, and I don't want it to cook more than what I have on the top. So it's almost like you're folding it. Bring it from the bottom on the top. And now you can see how this cabbage is starting to caramelized and softened already. It's probably been no more than 10 minutes or so. You'll know when it's time to put the water in because you would have stirred up the pot enough to make sure that it's heated evenly. You don't want a lot of soft cabbage and a lot of crunchy cabbage. They're beautiful. And I know you can smell it. I know you can smell it. Catch this crumb, baby. Catch this crumb. Right here, look at the sausage. See, the sausage are steadily rendering flavor and juices. There you go. And I'm making a mess, but I want y'all to see I'm turning extra hard so you can see I'm pulling ingredients from the bottom and putting it on top. And that's how it goes. So at this point, what we're going to do is add in some broth. So give me a few minutes. I'll be right back. Hey, y'all. I'm back. Are you ready to catch this crumb? We are almost through stirring in this cabbage. I wanted to tell you, honestly, have to treat it a bit like a saute when you first started out. So as you all saw, we stirred, right? Okay, now we're at the point where we're about to finish it up. I do want to tell you, I put more cabbage in the pot. And that's kind of what you have to do as the cabbage that you put in gets more and more tender. You don't want it to cook down too soft, but you just kind of see the pot, they're wilting more and more and more. So you're able to add more cabbage in. And that's the way you want to do it. You want to kind of add it in layers, but that's why you have to steadily stir and turn your cabbage so that the part on the bottom won't get too soft. And everything will end up cooking evenly. You're just letting the cabbage that's in the pot wilt just enough to be able to keep stirring and adding in more cabbage. Keep stirring and adding in more cabbage. But if you don't already cook cabbage or fry cabbage, that's something you can do as you get more experience. First thing to do is to learn how to cook it. Okay, so you can start out with just a minimal amount where whatever you put in there in the beginning, that's what you cook and that's it. Later on, you will learn to add more and more so you can, make a bigger pot, essentially. So I wanted to tell you that. I've also told you about the vegetables that I have remaining that I'm going to put in now at this point, the second layer of our cooking process. One other thing I want to tell you is that, let me go ahead and start stirring because I don't want these to cook too much. But one other thing I wanted to tell you is that, you can flavor your cabbage however you want. This particular pot, I want it to taste fresh. I want these greens to taste fresh. I don't want them to taste heavy. I don't want too much of a meat flavor. I want to really maintain the cabbage flavor and nothing to overshadow that. So I'm not going to add too much. I already have the sausage, which the sausage really acts more of a seasoning. But if you want to really have a hearty flavor to your cabbage, you can add either beef bouillon or chicken bouillon. Whatever flavor tickles your fancy the most, So what I'm going to do, I can't just leave this completely fresh and not adding anything, but just to show you for the sake of demonstration. Again, you can use beef bouillon if you want to taste like that. They even have pork bouillon. Did y'all know that? They have ham seasoning. So even just like, vegetarians or whatever, and you just want the veggies, you want it to taste like meat, but you don't want to add meat, then you can add the chicken bouillon, you can add beef bouillon, or you can even add ham seasoning. You've seen that seasoning that comes with beans, if y'all have bought those type of beans. But here's our cabbage. Let me close this cabinet, it's blocking some of my light. But here is our cabbage. And I'm just sprinkling a little of this seasoning over the top. I want you to see the point of cooking. I haven't added any broth to this at this point, you all. I haven't added any broth whatsoever. So if I wanted a truly, truly fried cabbage, and I wanted to maintain a little of the bite, the crunch in my cabbage, I wouldn't add any liquid at all. And my mama had to teach me that, y'all. Cooking is a process. It's like I told my daughter, and it's like anything else. She was talking about putting on eyelashes, strip eyelashes. I said, if you only do it once every 3 months, you'll never get good at it. It's going to always be a struggle. And cooking is the same way. You kind of just have to keep doing it because it is a process of application, and you have to, create some consistencies in the way you approach cooking certain dishes. Certain things you can kind of change up and switch up, but definitely the art is in what you do consistently. So I wanted you to see how beautiful the color is. And I have a lot of broth in the bottom of that pot, and it's just from the cabbage. And the bell pepper, of course, has a little water. So my mom really likes her cabbage just a bit more tender than this. But that's it. She does not want mushy cabbage whatsoever. She wants that bell pepper to be in there. She has her way that she likes it. Now, I tell you another thing I like to do. I still haven't added the broth, you all. I'll go ahead and do that now. Remember, depending on how crunchy you want them, you don't have to add any at all. This is a full cup. I'm just gonna, because I see how much water has rendered into that pot. You see, it didn't even stop bubbling. It's sizzling just as much, even with me adding that stock in. You don't want a watery pot of cabbage. That's what you don't want. I can tell you that right now. Nobody likes a watery pot of cabbage. You know why? Because the flavor in cabbage is so delicate already. You know, it doesn't, I mean, there's not a whole lot of flavor in cabbage. My God. And then it's organic, y'all. If you don't buy organic, that's why sometimes it's just depending on what you have a taste for. It's worth it because you can actually you can taste the difference, especially when it comes to produce. Y'all ready to catch this last crumb? Because I am. Let's go ahead and finish up this beautiful pot of cabbage. If you can smell my kitchen, oh my goodness. I don't know who's going to end up with this pot of cabbage, but may they be blessed to catch this crumb. Let me show you the pot. I think when the last video ended, I was talking about using bouillons to flavor your cabbage. You can just go with a completely clean flavor and not add anything additional. Or if you wanted like a really hearty, if you had a taste for cabbage and you didn't want anything else, just some good old cabbage and cornbread, you can have your little meat in the pot that's just flavoring the pot. And then you can add beef bouillon. Beef bouillon is going to have a heartier flavor. You know, you won't have as much of cabbage flavor because beef is heavy, right? But if you wanted something just light, you can use a chicken bouillon. And I was also talking about ham bouillons. If you've ever bought a package of beans and it had like the ham flavoring in it, that's all it is, flavoring powder. So you can make your veggies taste like meat without adding meat. And how do I know that? From fasting. When I do my no meat fast. But anyway, so we're at the pot, not at the pot, we're at the point where this pot is almost finished. And we're going to add in those last bit of vegetables that I was telling you about. I wanted to maintain the crunch. And I'm going to tell you what I did off camera, what I had to go ahead and do because of time, you know. You see this pot of cabbage is beautiful. You can see how the broth has turned colors from the seasoning that we added. And, you know, if this were a pot of soup or if I were making the base to a gumbo, I would take a teaspoon and I would taste this beautiful broth that we have here. Let me just get a spoon. I want to make sure that y'all are seeing what it is that I am speaking of, honey. I need to be 100% sure that you are seeing this. Let me just move this over while I get a spoon. And this, so I use these for events, y'all, but I also use these little tasting spoons. But, you know, maybe you're making chicken and dumplings, which I've been craving. I was intending to make some before I started this fast, but didn't have a chance. Chicken and dumplings, and, you know, it's right before you put the dumplings in. Taste that broth and make sure that broth is good because that's the base for your plate. I mean, that's the base for your pot. Everything in that pot is going to taste like that broth. Taste your broth and keep layering the different seasonings until you have the taste that you want. With this, I could honestly just take a piece of cabbage and cut it. And hold it up. Or take a spoon, just like this. Ooh, look at that color. Y'all see that color, baby? You know that's no joke. My God. And I taste it. It's a little peppery. Keep in mind, I didn't even add any black pepper. Now, people who really like a lot of black pepper would probably add some more. But remember, I use this Nature Seasonings by Morton, so it has pepper in it. I had this Body of Complete. As a matter of fact, just to show you about layering seasonings, I had this out to use because, as you can see, it's mostly herbs. It does have a little bit of salt in it, but it's mostly herbs. But since I use that Morton's Nature Seasoning, I don't even need that Body of. This color is beautiful. This pot is beautiful. Oh my God. Now, I will tell you all what I normally do as well is I add just a capful of apple cider vinegar. There's nothing that's going to make or break your recipe. That's just something I like to do. You know, we are the queen of tabby sweet, tabby salty. So I add a little bit, like, a cap of apple cider vinegar just to give it that twang. And then I also add just a teaspoon or so of sugar. But again, you will do those two things to your taste. After you taste that pot liquor, as we love to say in Louisiana, and it's to your liking, then you decide, do I want it just a little sweet? If so, add some sugar. Don't add too much at one time, because you can't take it away. You can't take sugar away, just like you can't take salt away. So all I have to do at this point, y'all, oh my goodness, somebody scream. We're at the end of our first video almost. I'm taking these last veggies that I told y'all about. It was over there on the cutting board. Now just imagine how beautiful these are going to taste. I'm putting these last veggies in this pot. Same veggies I used to flavor the pot at the base for the saute. Exact same veggies. What do we use? White onion, green bell pepper, scallion. Only thing I'm not adding more of is garlic. Because you know this pot is so steaming hot. Thank God to my mom who bought me this beautiful, heavy duty, and expensive cookware. She loves to remind me of how much it costs, y'all. So I won't say the price, but it is indeed expensive. It is stainless steel, heavy, thick, solid stainless steel, not hollow. And then it is painted with a beautiful bluish gray enamel on the inside. And all of the pieces are like that. Look, oh my goodness. Are y'all ready to eat? Are y'all ready to catch this crumb? Are you ready to catch this crumb? Well, baby, I can't mail this pot to you, but I sure have told you everything I know about cooking cabbage on the stove top. Never ever boil cabbage. I can't say that. Most things, you know, I try to be modest and tell people, oh, do it to your liking. But nobody boils cabbage, y'all. Nobody boils cabbage because it only takes 10-15 minutes to make. And the vegetable itself has so much water in it, you would never want to just boil cabbage. In other words, you wouldn't want to use a stock pot or a boiler and add 4, 5, 6 cups of water. No. This is the cup I started out with. This is a full cup of water. And as you can see, I didn't even use half of it. That is literally like 1/3 of this cup. 1/3 of this cup. If you divided this 1 8-ounce cup into 3, that's what I put in this cabbage. Because nobody wants their cabbage swimming in water. Okay? So back to the cooking principalities. What did we do? We had to manage our temperature. We started out high and we went to a medium, and then at this point we're at a low because we're simmering. Cooking principality. Catch that crumb. Second thing is we layered in our seasoning. We didn't dump all of this seasoning in at once. We put some in to open up the flavors with the olive oil. Then we seasoned our vegetables, and then we went in on each layer of raw cabbage with the seasoning. Balance is another principality because I want balance in my cabbage. I don't want it to taste so flat. I want to add some depth to the flavor. I added in like a capful of apple cider vinegar, and I added in about a tablespoon, a smidgen of sugar. Those things you will add to your liking. Principality number 3 is you continue to taste your pot, so you can continue to layer seasonings. But principality number 5 is patience. You have to be patient with your food. You can't cook it in a rush. And I take that back. I won't say that it doesn't apply here because especially when you're cooking something for the first time, you need to be patient. You need to watch what it is you're doing. You need to be thoughtful about your cooking. That's what I've told Mariah as I continue to try to teach her how to bake, that you have to be intentional. Just like everything else in life, you come out much better when you are intentional about what you're doing. Have your mindset on what it is you're trying to do, what you want to accomplish, what's important in terms of what comes out right, what has to be spot on, and what you may be able to, finagle with a little bit if you would. But you have to approach everything with intention. And cooking is no different. So once you start, because you started out with a great intention to do great things and cook a great pot of food, then you have to be patient. You have to take your time. You can't rush through it because you have to watch. You have to watch what? You have to watch your temperature. You have to be patient for what? You have to wait for that flavor to develop. You can't expect to season something at the beginning and it just turn out perfect. It doesn't work that way because even your ingredients change from season to season. The cut of beef, one cut of beef may require more seasoning than another. One type of protein is going to require more seasoning than another. So patience, intentions, temperature, timing. I always talk about liquid ratio. Have we put too much broth in that pot or even water? Because again, you can change some things out. If we're using a chicken stock, then we really don't necessarily need a chicken bouillon because we use the chicken stock. But if we know how to layer and we're going to taste and just put a little bit in at a time, we can do that. We want bold flavors. So we can layer some chicken bouillon on top of some chicken stock. Or you don't have to, it doesn't take a lot of money. Maybe you don't have chicken stock. Use your water in your bouillon. Okay? So there we have it, folks. Those are all the crumbs I have for tonight. I hope you really, really enjoyed this video. LaWanda, thank you so much for the request. And if any of you family members who are coming to dinner have a special request, please make sure you drop your recommendations in the comments, and I will try my best to oblige. I'll see you at our next dinner party. Make sure you subscribe so you can catch these crumbs. Love you.
So here we are, peeps. This is the final product, the pan-fried cabbage. And we're out. I hope you enjoyed catching these crumbs. Come back and see us.